Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. Today's show is lymphatic therapy for animals. I mean, go figure, okay? I mean, these animals need massages or something. I don't really think so. I think what they really need is they need really good water, and they need really good food, and they need their owners probably to take them out and exercise them. What do you think, Dr. Marlene Siegel?
Well, I think all that's important, but lymphatic therapy is so underused. But we're going to change that today.
Beautiful. Well, let's change it. How do we do that?
Well, let's talk about, first of all, why no one is doing that in the animal world. And I kind of equate that to the elephant in the room. You know, sometimes when you don't have anything that you can do about something, then you ignore it. And so for years and years and years, we were never taught anything about really treating the lymphatic system. We know what it does, but we haven't really had any means for being able to treat it. And yet it's, in my opinion, the second most important organ system in the body because it's so vital for taking and filtering what's going through the body and detoxifying it and supplying nutrients to the tissues and taking waste products away. And there's so many things in our lifestyles, in our pets' lifestyles, that are causing these areas to get congested. So think of it as a tubular network that doesn't have a pump. Where the heart has a pump, the lymphatic system doesn't. It requires muscle contraction to move it along. Well, we certainly know that the pets of today, for the most part, live a very sedentary lifestyle along with their pet parents. So they're not getting that muscle contraction on a steady basis to really exercise this system. And so we're seeing between that and toxins and diseases, edema, and all kinds of things that are causing this system to get congested. Now it's like taking the drain and clogging it. And if you have enough of your drains that are clogged in the house, things start to back up. And that's what we see in the lymphatic system. So if we aren't addressing that, then you can be doing a lot of good things to detoxify the body. But if it isn't getting carried out, then you're going to see a toxicity.
You're going to see a lot of inflammation too, and probably weight gain. And with pets, is their lymph system fluid probably around 10 times more than their blood fluid? So, I mean, in volume, correct? Am I right?
Yeah, just the same as it is in people.
Yeah.
And without good lymphatic flow, you don't absorb your nutrients as well. You don't process the chemicals and even the nutraceuticals that you're taking, let alone the pharmaceuticals. So it's really important that that's addressed. In the human world, most people get manual lymphatic therapy, which is very good. But the system that I'm using is done with a machine, and it has negative ions and microcurrent, and it uses inert gases. And it goes in and sort of thins out that fluid where it's congested and opens the ports. And now the lymph has a place to go, and it has the ability to flow more easily.
Beautiful. And so do we get the same thing with pets as we do with people? If you feel underneath the armpit and it feels like there's fat there, it like with people, if they go underneath and they have this fat pouch under their arm, they think it's fat, but it's not fat. It's actually congested lymph. Do you find that with pets as well, underneath their legs?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. But with our machine, it's even better than that because we've noticed, or actually since I've been using the machine for the past year, I've noticed that a lot of the congestion occurs around surgical sites where they've been spayed or neutered, and that lymphatic movement has been interrupted and nothing's been done to actually fix it because, again, we've never had the presence of mind to do so, nor have we had the tools to do so.
And you know,
So,
if I can say something, you hit on something that is so huge. You know what? Like after surgery, for the patients that I see come in and they have surgery, especially for fibroids or tumors, guess where you'll find the next fibroid or the tumor?
yeah. And we don't really understand or appreciate how important that is. But since I've been doing this lymphatic therapy, it's a two glass wands, they're probes. And when I pass it across an area that there is congestion, you actually hear a difference in the sound that the transducers are making, and you can literally feel the drag right across that tissue. It's amazing. And so it's not even that you have to see it or feel it. You can feel it through the transducer. So there's no doubt when you hit an area where there's congestion.
Is
A
this?
lot of our animals that have been spayed and neutered
Mhm.
have congestion in their groin area. And many of them go on to develop cancers.
Yeah, but you probably find that in a lot of pets because just like in human beings, the most congested, the most inflamed area is the groin region. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's also the end of the poop chute. So,
Yeah.
with animals that aren't eating a proper diet, there's going to be stagnation, constipation, and then they're going to be absorbing all this waste, and then those lymph nodes in those areas are completely under attack all the time.
Absolutely. And we're actually seeing that. So we're working to help educate people of the importance of movement. And of course, number one, I do this every show, stop causing the pollution. Stop doing the things that is creating the inflammation, which is making it overwhelming for the body to respond. And you can't say that often enough. I cringe every time somebody says, but my animal has X symptom, Y symptom. And they just focus on the symptom without realizing that the symptom is simply just a manifestation of the root cause, which is still coming down to that whole inflammatory process coming from the leaky body, leaky gut, leaky liver, leaky brain, leaky everything from all the damage that we're causing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's complete adulteration because owners don't know how to feed their pets properly. And can I ask you a question? Do you know what the percentage would be? But is it like 100% that if the pet food is not organic, that the chances of glyphosate being in it are pretty high?
100%.
Well, then guess what? You're killing your pets. I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a show in about 8 weeks, and it's going to be just on glyphosate. And everybody needs to understand out there that 140 billion pounds of glyphosate, okay, goes in. They actually use that to spray onto all our foods every year. And I mean, not a lot of it goes on to get rid of the weeds, but it ends up getting into our water, and the water is used to actually for our food, and it gets into a lot of our food. Am I right or wrong, Marlene?
Oh, you're absolutely right. But you know what the saddest part, Dr. Wolf, is that most of the glyphosate being sprayed is by homeowners. It's by us, the individuals, that are using more than even commercial industry. So we gotta wake up about that. But since we got on that topic, if you don't mind me preempting your bandwagon there, I'll talk a little bit about what we have found because I'm working with Dr. Zach Bush, and they have immunofluorescent studies that show when cells are exposed to glyphosate, it literally causes inflammation, raises zonulin, kind of TMI, but basically it takes those tight junctions that are supposed to be held together like this and it breaks them apart. But not just in the gut, it's happening in the brain, in the liver, in the kidney, in the skin. It's happening everywhere where you have these tight junctions. And these tight junctions are responsible for filtering the outside world and allowing just the right things into your inside world. So when you take that, I call it cheesecloth, when you take this filter membrane and you now bust it apart like this, now you have large molecules that were never supposed to come into the body that can. Well, think about an animal eating any kind of processed foods. I don't care if it comes in a kibble bag or a can, or if it's been processed, there's not enough enzymes to break that down. So now when it's coming down the digestive tract, you've got big chunks of these proteins that haven't been broken down to their individual unit, and they're finding those massive holes in that membrane and they're coming in. That would be bad enough if that's the only problem. But the second thing that glyphosate is doing is it's destroying the actin filaments. Now, actin are the protein filaments that hold all your cell membranes and the organelles inside your membranes in place. So imagine it's kind of like the scaffolding. When glyphosate is exposed to these cells, that scaffolding is destroyed. And now the cell has nothing to hold it in shape and it collapses. When that happens to your mitochondria, you can't produce energy appropriately. You can't turn on pathways because there's no energy to run them. And then the third problem with that is, of course, we're not able to produce a lot of our neurotransmitters because we're not getting them in our diet, because the organisms, the microbiome that produce those for us aren't making them because of the glyphosate. So it blocks that shikimate pathway. It is really beyond horrific. So we had a client in this past week, and they wanted to take Alyssa and I out to dinner. So here we are, we go out to a restaurant, and I will not, under any circumstances, eat food that has canola oil or vegetable oil in it. So I asked the chef every time, what do you cook your food in? And every restaurant that we went to, and we went to farm to table, they're supposed to be more organic, and they were cooking their food in vegetable oil and canola oil. I couldn't eat that because I know what that's doing inside my body. And if everybody just thought about that for a minute and said, okay, even though I don't feel the damage right away, it's still happening. And so that feeling that you have the next day where you just don't have as much energy, or you have a little gut issues, or you're a little constipated, or a little diarrhea, guys, that is not an accident. That is what you're doing to your body. But your poor pets, they don't have a choice. They can only eat what you give them. So we have to be more conscientious to know that what we're feeding our animals is clean, that there's no hormones, chemicals, pesticides, there's no damage that's coming from the diet. That is so important. In fact, there was a study by the University of Helsinki College of Veterinary Medicine on diet. It's the only study that's been done so far. And they found that 30 to 40% of cancers would be eliminated by just feeding an organic raw diet. Just doing that. Can you imagine? With cancer rates almost 100% in dogs, 1 out of 1.65. So can you imagine if diet was just that simple, that we could reduce cancer rates almost in half?
You know, I think the big issue here is that pet owners need to take responsibility for the sickness of the dog. And, you know, and when I say this they need to take responsibility from what they're feeding right then and there, because what happens when the dog gets sick, and usually it's a chronic degenerative disease, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Then, and please don't get me wrong, but then they just take it to the vet to shut down the symptoms. Whereas if they take it to a veterinarian like you're not shutting down the symptoms. You're actually getting to the cause. You're actually taking the time to show them that, you know, diet's creating the riot, which is creating the chaos and the illness. And I hope you don't mind, Dr. Siegel, but I really want everyone to understand something, and that is I really want to promote Dr. Siegel's food that she makes for pets, because it is only the best in the world. So I want you to at least tell people where they can go to be able to go on and take a look at the food that you offer. And even if you don't end up buying Dr. Siegel's food, even if you don't end up buying her food, now you're going to find out what kind of food actually gives you a pet that you don't have to go to the vet for. So you don't want a pet vet, okay? You want a pet that's going to be looked after and nourished and eating the right foods. And take it away, Dr. Siegel. Please show them.
Well, can you see the box?
Not clearly.
Oh, you can't see it because, okay, higher. But guys upstairs, can they see the box?
Lift it up higher, up in front of your face. There you go.
Okay.
There it is.
So that's proud. It. So it's Evolve Raw, and it is spelled love forwards and backwards. How cool is that? So it's evolveraw.com. And when they go there, they're going to be able to learn about why raw is important, why you want to have a raw that is organic, that hasn't been put through any hormones, chemicals, pesticides, or GMOs. And then on that same page, I have the supplements that go along with it. So this is our packaging.
Beautiful.
This is the back. It'll be a little bit cleaner. And that's our little love paw. And then all the nutritional facts are on the back. And then the bottom, I'm not going to share that with you. I'm just going to have you see it when you get it, because it's really cool. So, you know, back to our topic, and that's why we're here today, is we wanted to focus on the lymphatic system and all the important things that the lymphatic system does. You can do lymphatic therapy at home by simply taking your dog on a good, healthy walk, something that is really stimulating. But we're not talking 5 minutes around the block. We're talking really muscular contraction and running. They did it naturally when they were hunting for food. They had to have high intensity exercise. Think about our kitty cats. These guys are getting up, they go to the food bowl, they eat their processed foods, and then they go back and lay down again. Sometimes they'll go chase a little toy or they'll run around the house for a minute or two, but that's not nearly enough for their lymphatic system to work properly. So we like to educate people on how we can do lymphatic therapy using either a machine like I have. Another way they can do it is dry brushing, which is not as easy to do for our animals, but dry brushing only gets the superficial lymphatics. Your therapies and what I do with my machine, we can get down into those deep lymphatics, the ones that are circulating around the organ systems. And that's where you're really getting the gold mine there, because you're taking all this beautiful lymphatic material, and as you circulate it, you're increasing T lymphocytes, you're increasing all the immune competent components and allowing that to just bathe your cells. And I have several cases where we did live blood analysis of an animal and just saw what their blood looked like, kind of stuck together and full of rouleau and collapsing cells. And we did lymphatic therapy, and immediately following the lymphatic therapy, no other therapy is done, and we could see the cells just expand and look beautiful. And even though we may not be able to say exactly what's happening metabolically when we do that, we certainly know that the cell is working better, it's more efficient, it can do its job, because now it actually has the shape that it was designed to have, so it can use the surface area to do all the things it was originally designed to do.
Beautiful. So it's really about pumping that lymph, and I think that what most people don't understand is you've got a heart that pumps your blood, but what pumps the lymph? And it's exercise mainly, or it's energy medicine therapy like you do. And is this a PMF device that you use, or what is it based on?
No, it has two transducers, two glass transducers, and
Okay.
it uses negative ions and inert gases, and that in a microcurrent.
Okay.
And as it's being applied to the tissue, it's causing the tissue to absorb these inert gases and the microcurrent and the negative ions, and it thins it out. So we do certain movement with the probes to decongest an area, and then we hold it over the different regional nodes where the drainage occurs, and we open those up. And honestly, it's like working with a drain that's gotten clogged. And when we open it up, you can just feel the movement of that lymph, and the animals, they feel so much better afterwards. One of my coolest cases was a dog that had been burned over 80% of her body by a horrible previous owner. And she was rescued, and actually her life was saved, but she has 80% of her body was burned. And then 4 years later, she developed a rheumatoid arthritis. It was an inflammatory condition because, of course, she had very stagnant lymph. She couldn't move any lymph through most of her body. And the first time that I treated her, I couldn't even run my probes across her. I had to roll them. She was so congested. And immediately when I got done treating her, she jumped up and started running around the office. And if we didn't get it on video, I wouldn't have believed it. And then she would get lymphatic therapy once or twice a week. And that poor owner had to drive an hour and a half to get to me each way. But it made a huge difference in this dog. And then, of course, we combined that with her hyperbaric therapy and some of the other things. And she was able to respond beautifully, because we were taking, when you don't have your lymphatics moving, your circulation slows down, the regeneration of cells is less effective, you're not getting oxygenation to the tissue. So you just get this whole diminished effect, and the body starts to get this chronic inflammation and these toxins that can't be filtered and can't get out.
So maybe you can tell our viewers, what are the main symptoms that you would find with chronic lymphedema?
We don't see a lot of lymphedema per se in our animals unless they've had a surgery where we're removing lymph nodes. We'll see it in cases like that. But lymphedema is really a bigger issue in humans.
Okay.
What we're seeing is a disruption of lymph fluid. We're seeing a stagnation of generalized lymph movement. And so these animals are just very toxic and very sick. And when we are able to open their lymphatic drainage, it's part of our detoxification process. Once you can start getting the junk out, the body has this innate intelligence to know how to heal itself. So we use our diet and we use the clean environment. And of course, structured water is imperative. And then we do saunas, we do coffee enemas, we do lymphatic therapy. Lymphatic therapy is one of our mainstays. Our cancer patients will come in and they get their PEMF device first. We put them in a magnosphere, which is our PEMF device. It's real nice low frequencies. It resets the parasympathetic nervous system. And then they move into the sauna, they go into the salt booth, they have their lymphatic therapy done, which also promotes more parasympathetic tone and reduces the sympathetic tone, which is that fight, flight, and then nothing heals in that state. We do all of that, and then we put them in an ion foot bath, and all this movement that we have just created, those toxins come out through the feet. And I'm telling you, we see some gunky water.
Well, it sounds like they actually go to a spa.
Yeah, you could say that, but it's what the body naturally did. In the old days, when we really lived a more sustainable lifestyle, dogs ran hard when they had to eat. They were out in the sun. They sweated through their pads of their feet and their nose, and they panted. And they ate a sustainable diet. They weren't inundated with the toxins. They breathed deeply when they were running, which helped to clean their lungs. And they, I'm sure, had different herbs that they would eat through the animals' intestines that they were eating, which would also detoxify the kidneys, and they peed good. And they actually peed more because they had a lot more water in their diet. They ate a diet that was 70% water. And that's what we're made up of, 70 to 80% water. So when they're eating a fresh kill, they're getting a lot more water into their system, and we know that cleanses the kidneys, and that helps the lymphatics have more flow to them. They're thinner. So all of these things were natural lifestyles. It's our abnormal lifestyles that we've created that is setting off these poor animals, and they can't compensate.
I know, it's just, you know what, they're no different than us, and the more that we get into this modernization, the more that we need to facilitate the same thing as the pets. I mean, the more that we get into even artificial intelligence, and we become not doers and watchers, and yeah, I mean, how we don't go out and even do our own gardening, and then so the dog doesn't get out to come out to the garden with us. So the less we do, the less they do, the more they need you. That's it.
Absolutely. I know I heard Zach Bush giving a lecture recently, and he said that just picking weeds in your garden with your dog next to you, your cat next to you, just picking the weeds will create this puff of microbiome from the earth that you breathe in and it gets on your skin. And just something like that will increase the amount of microorganisms that are going to be helpful to your body. So most people don't realize, and let's just bring this point out, that when their body is turning on and turning off different pathways, it's not our cells or the dog cells that are doing it. All that communication is happening between the microbiome, your organisms, your bacteria, your fungi, your parasites. That whole organism set is communicating with your mitochondria, and those organisms talk to each other and they say, hey, we need to turn on some anti-inflammatory pathways here because my host, who I'm living in, has just done something very bad to our body. We need to go clean that up for them. So it's not us that is in charge. It's our microbiome and our mitochondria. And I think a lot of people now have heard the expression that we're 10 to 1 more bacteria than we are human cells. But if you add the mitochondria in there, then we're 100 to 1 more mitochondria than we are human cells. Glyphosate destroys that communication link between the microbiome and the mitochondria. Now, all of a sudden, nobody is communicating. The central station can't get the message across to the troops, and so there's no feedback mechanism in there. And now they don't know, am I supposed to grow? Am I supposed to turn off? Am I supposed to die? And so what do the cells do if they have no other further communication? They just grow. So isn't that interesting that they're not programmed for anything else because the communication isn't being given to them to, hey, you need to either die or you need to recycle yourself. So it's either apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, which we're supposed to have. And a lot of our natural foods created that. So abnormal cells didn't have a chance to grow because we had all of these natural mechanisms, such as B17, grows in apricot seeds and mung beans and cassava, all these bitters that many people don't eat anymore. When you eat that stuff, that releases a chemical that your healthy cells know how to convert into something useful, but your abnormal cells can't. And then that beta glucansidase goes in there, it kills the abnormal cell, and it never has a chance to proliferate. And on the flip side of that is the autophagy conversation, which is where cells are told to, they're not functioning anymore, they're wearing out, they're getting old, and they're saying, hey, can you go to the recycle bin because we need some of your good parts? So can you go just recycle yourself, and then we can get the good parts and use them in the next vehicle. Does that make sense? Or the next level of tissues or repair or regeneration or what you need. But we don't do things to allow our pets to go into either one of those states. If we just fed them the right times of day, if we fed them and did a 12-hour fast and periodically a 24-hour fast, that would automatically turn on that whole process of autophagy, recycling of cells. And now they can get rid of all their yucky stuff and lay down healthy tissue for repair and regeneration.
And they can get an expensive stem cell therapy that the owner doesn't have to pay for.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Your body can do it on its own. You just have to set up the conditions. So one of the things that I am very passionate about is helping people to realize that treating symptoms is not going to get us anywhere, whether it's our pets, whether it's ourselves, or whether it's the earth, right? Because we have the whole microbiome of the earth. If we think of the earth as a living organism, we're responsible for all of that. We're responsible for ourselves. We're responsible for the animals that we're caring for, and we're responsible for the earth and what we do to it. And it's our job, I think it's our responsibility to treat it with respect and to keep it healthy. Because if we don't have the earth and we don't have the microbiome, we're not going to eat. We're not going to have food. We're not going to have a place to stay, and we're going to go extinct.
Yeah. But you know what? They've done a brilliant marketing job when you were saying that, the homeowner, when he's out there spraying his weeds, is responsible for a lot of the Roundup out there. But did you know what they did? They marketed to the men that they could go out and they could have a gun in their hand so that they could just shoot this stuff. And that's when their sales really went through the roof, when they finally made it fun for men to go out and kill weeds.
Yeah. It's so sad. We've talked before that my entire yard, 360 degrees around my house, is all food growing. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go to that extent. I love it. But you can take sections of your yard, and even if you put in a grow box or you put in a hydroponic tower or you just do potted plants in your windowsill, but just take some time to create something that can live outdoors and sustain you. It creates more gratitude. You actually do a lot of good for the earth. You quit spraying and killing stuff. And many of my weeds in my garden are actually either medicinal or they're actually very nutritious. Like we eat our Spanish needles and we make teas out of it. And I use it in my composting, and the bees love my Spanish needles. I actually let them grow fairly wide. I make little pathways to get around them, but they're wonderful. And I eat my dollar weed, and I have cucumber weed, and I have pepper weed, and they are delicious, very nutrient dense. So we just need to learn how to live in cooperation with the earth. My goodness, we're not living in cooperation with our own bodies, let alone the people around us, the earth around us, and the pets around us.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. A lot of people, they don't even know how to look after their pets, and it's,
we're trying to get it out there.
I know. And, there's very few and far between of veterinarians like you, and that's the whole reason why we need to do this show.
Well, I have a program that is in editing right now. I'm hoping to release it by September. That is a pet program for pet parents to
Beautiful.
teach them exactly what they need to do. One of the things that people have a hard time with is that they listen to webinars, they listen to lectures, they listen to shows like this. And then when the show's over, they go, but I don't know where to start. I don't know, what do I do first? So in the program that I've written, it tells them where you need to start, and it tells them how to progress. They can go really slow, they can go medium, and they can go fast. It doesn't matter as long as they're going in the right direction. And then I have another program written for veterinarians to teach them how to integrate alternative medicine into their practices.
Wow.
Course number one, it's almost the same for the pet owner as it is for the veterinarian. It's helping to shift that belief system that processed foods is okay. And it's so sad to look at all these pet food companies that have come out with each diet is specific for a symptom. Oh my gosh, what an atrocity. They don't tell you to fix the symptom. They don't tell you to get rid of the root cause so the symptom goes away. No, they give you a pill for the ill, and then they give you a diet that's named for that disease. It's not only an atrocity, at some point when people really understand what they're doing, it's unconscionable to continue doing behavior like that because you already know that it's bad. How do you keep moving forward like that? So my challenge, and I love the way you started the show, is to set a foundation, a framework of cooperation. And I'm just asking companies to just join the movement. If you're going to make a food, then that's great. I certainly couldn't feed every animal on the planet. I can only feed a little fraction of them. But what I can do is I can educate pet parents, and I can have us as a community put pressure on these companies to produce something healthier. Just like going out to a restaurant and saying, hey, if you're going to cook something in canola oil and vegetable oil, I'm not going to eat it. And it really makes a difference when you have a party of 4 or 10 and you get up and you walk out.
Mm-hmm.
Now you start leaving an impact. And I know we talked at the end of last year about doing a whole, remember the bucket challenge?
Yeah.
Well, let's do a canola oil challenge. Let's all get that canola oil and dump it in the garbage, right? We don't want to put it down the sink because it clogs your sinks and then it goes into our environment. But we want to somehow get rid of it in a healthy way. But if we as a community do not demand that restaurants feed us better, they're not going to do it. But can you imagine 1 week of no business because they don't have anything healthy on their menu? And I'm not saying they have to change everything on their menu, just change one item, one vegetable item, like a vegetarian dish and one meat dish, and make those healthy and clean. That's not that hard. And we're talking pennies difference. So charge $1 more if you think it's going to cost that much more. But watch how people respond. It's really remarkable.
Well, I can't find a good place to eat in Kelowna. There's a place that might have a salad. There's a place that might have, some juicing going on, but no place where I could just sit down and say I can look at a menu and actually order. So that doesn't happen here. Can I ask you a question? So, is there any way that people can pre-order your course? And do you do that? Do you allow people to pre-order? So as soon as they're done, they'll be notified, and boom.
You are such the brilliant marketer. I so appreciate your business sense. I hadn't even gotten that far because I'm so inundated in editing and getting all the content
just
out.
Get somebody else to put it up there.
But you know what? Since you did that, since you brought it up, any of the listeners who email me or contact me or let me know that they would like to get that course, I will give it to them for 10% off.
Beautiful. And how much is the course?
Haven't even set that yet. I'm thinking the pet owner course is going to be in the realms of $99. Yeah, something like that. So it's going to be under $100. It's a tremendous value because I give them resources. Not only do I teach them what I teach in $150, I teach for $150, $155. We do a consultation. So I spend an hour teaching people, and it's $155. All of our supplements and test treatments and medications are additional. So for under $100, they're going to get everything that I teach in a do it at home type of process. And then they can refer back to it. And then they have resources. I even guide them to what companies, if they want to maybe purchase some of the tools that we use in my practice, whether it's the Magnosphere or the lymphatic therapy or our Theragem or our saunas or whatever instruments that we use. A lot of our clients, because of their patients having cancer and they may not live close by, because we have people coming from Canada, from Texas, from all over the United States that come in and stay with us for 1 to 3 weeks, sometimes up to a month while we're getting their patients all straightened out. But when they go home, there's nobody there that does what I do. So a lot of our clients actually purchase these tools, which then they use on themselves and their family members and their other dogs. And it's life transforming.
Yeah, you train people to treat themselves.
And they're taking and putting value into their health and their pet's health.
Right.
And that's priceless. For me, most people can go on vacation and blow $5,000 easily on a vacation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you just add up some of the stuff that you do on a monthly basis, most people spend $200 to $500 a month just on nonsense, crappy food, going to the movies. Not to say that the movies aren't good, but I go to the movies once a year, right? It's just there's nothing really there that's of value. If I'm going to put something in my mind, I want it to be something that's going to benefit my mind, my spirit, my emotions, my consciousness. But that's just me. Okay, I'm a little extreme. So if we could just take and start budgeting money for our health, wow, wouldn't that be a difference? And maybe some of the insurance that you spend, and if you started being healthier, you could go to a higher deductible and take that extra money and start investing it into tools that could really help you. What would happen, God forbid, if all of a sudden the whole medical industry collapsed and all of a sudden you couldn't get medical care? Wouldn't it be awesome if you were growing some of your own food, if you were able to actually treat yourself for viruses and bacteria, a little home ozone machine to boost your immune system? There's so many very inexpensive, easy to do, so valuable in helping your body to heal and restore and replenish. It's incredible. I have a dog here right now, a cancer patient, and the caregiver came with the dog. So she had some pain in her body from soreness, and she went in the Magnosphere with the dog, and she said it was remarkable when she came out, she didn't have as much pain. It was noticeably less pain. And that night she had the best sleep she's ever had. So she benefited by being in there with the dog. For people who are out there in our audience, if you aren't having these therapies done for you, please look into that for you and your pet. Oh, and then we are actually next year, 2020, we are looking at opening therapy centers around the country. And a therapy center is going to be virtually what I do here, but without needing a prescription. Like, you don't need a prescription to go into the sauna, to the salt booth, to have a Theragem, to do the Magnosphere. Those don't require a prescription. But it would be awesome to have lymphatic therapy done, get your ion foot bath done. Your dog could be in the station next to you, and you get yours done as well. And just start taking care of our bodies. We only have one vehicle to travel in. It'd be kind of nice if we made it last.
Yeah, and I think it's beautiful how you and your pet can take the same trip and do the same journey, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just serving your pet and having a healthy pet and looking after yourself. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But you know what? So many people don't even think about that. And you know that. They don't.
Yeah.
We're still in that 911 crisis mode, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh, I did a house call today for a lady, and she literally looked at me and she says, I eat horrible food and I smoke. I know I'm not taking care of my body, and my dog eats what I eat. And she said, is that a problem? I said, yeah, if you're eating crappy food, of course it's a problem if you give it to your dog, because now you're feeding your dog this horrible stuff that's causing inflammation in his body. and he's just blown out one of his cruciate ligaments. That's why I was at the house. So why are we doing this when we know that it's bad? And your courses are wonderful for helping people to pay attention to, why am I abusing myself? Why am I not treating myself with the same kind of love and kindness and respect that I deserve? And your pets are the same way. What's cool about the pet, though, is they give us unconditional love. They model unconditional love. We need to start paying attention to, how are we coming across? We're unconditional with our babies. And then when our kids start to grow up, we start to have much more of a conditional relationship with them. Even though we love them, it's a much more conditional relationship.
Well, it's conditional love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Instead of unconditional love.
Yeah, that's correct. And guess what? There's quite a few people texting in and on Facebook, and they want to know your website so they can buy the course.
Well, have them go to holistichealingvet.com, and there they can download the ebook. And if they want to email me, I think the easiest way to do it is through the Pasco Vet site. Through Pasco, it's www.pascovet.com. P like in Paul, A like in Apple, S like in Sam, C like in cat, O like in orange. That's Pasco, and then vet, VET, pascovet.com. And on that site is my email, and they can email me and just say, hey, I would love to have this course. Or they can actually friend me on Facebook and my hospital page. They can like it. And if they send me a message through Messenger, however they want to do it is fine.
Beautiful. Excellent. And that's the whole thing. You said it right there. You know, people want to take action, but nobody's ever said, here's a course, and you can take a step-by-step action, because nobody really wants to hurt their pets. They don't even know they're doing it. You know, when everybody's doing it, then that must be all that we can do.
Exactly. And I hear that a lot. And I hear, but I was told by my veterinarian, and I'm not making veterinarians out to be bad. They don't know. We were not taught this. The veterinarian's heart is the best of any profession I've ever been honored to be around. They are the best people out there, and they always want to do good. They just don't know. And a lot of them were taught that raw diets were bad. Our diet goes through an HPP process. It's high pressure pasteurization. There's no pathogens in there. I would be safer eating my food raw than I would eating a piece of raw meat from Publix or whatever grocery store, because they are not traveled safely at all. So our food is very, very safe, and we use a lot of measures to make sure that it remains the highest quality possible. Now remember, I took the macronutrients, the meat, the fat, the bone, and the organ meat, and I made that its own product. And I have two different types. I have one that's more ketogenic, and then I have one that's a little higher protein for the fast-growing animals, the younger guys that don't have a health challenge. But it's still the same, a balance that they would have eaten in the wild. And then I made a separate product for the vitamins, minerals, fatty acids. And then we have a third product that we use for gut healing to mitigate the damage that is done by glyphosate. Because glyphosate's raining down on us. It's in our air. It's in the rainwater. If you walk through puddles, you're getting exposed to some level of glyphosate. We're at the point now in the point of this world where you're not getting away from it. What we have to do is take actions to help repair and restore the body back to its normal state, and remove the things that have been damaged, or fix the things that have been damaged. And I have all of that written out on the Evolve Raw website. It's evolveraw.com. So they can learn about that on evolveraw.com, on pascovet.com. They can go to the videos and the blogs, and they can contact me, and we can help them when the course comes out to be able to really move forward quickly. But it's super self-explanatory. And we have in the course, I actually interviewed the different vendors for the different products that we encourage people to start looking at, whether you find a veterinarian or a spa that's doing it, or you buy it yourself, it doesn't matter. We want you to know what is a infrared sauna and why is it good for you. So we outlined everything so that people can learn. And then once they learn, they can then take action.
That's wonderful. So, what we'll probably do, hopefully, this will come out in September, and we'll do a show where we can actually show people and maybe go over some of the things and
some highlights and key points. Yeah,
that's right. Some highlights and key points. Yeah. How long have you been working on this course?
Oh, probably 25 years.
Yeah, that's usually the case, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it just very divinely fell into place. So it's really all the things that I've been teaching. And then I was able to I met a gentleman who does webinars. And so he's taken that program and been able to develop it into an actual course. And we'll have it available for purchase. It'll be on our app. It's going to be really, I'm so excited because I think it's going to revolutionize the way people think about their pets and care for their pets. And it's going to revolutionize the way people care for themselves as well. Because I think we only reach a certain audience when we're doing webinars, and there's tons of webinars out there, and they're really, really good. But it's not letting people move forward. It's almost like too much information without an action plan.
Yeah, this course is going to allow them to just bite off a piece at a time and be able to chew it, digest it, and be able to move and make sure they get each step right as they move forward instead of tripping.
Yes, and we're setting up a community platform. It probably will not be on Facebook. It's going to be on another platform that is not going to be censored and monitored, where people can very comfortably join and ask questions and be able to get some advice and then meet other people that are like-minded, because that's huge. When you're around a like-minded community, it really builds you up. You're like the 5 people that you hang out with the most. Pick carefully. Pick the people who also want to be healthy, also want to get rid of toxins, also care about the world and the animals and the other people and themselves. Those are the people that you want to spend time around and build each other up and make that support system.
Beautiful. Well, you've certainly been on fire this year, haven't you?
We got our event center open.
Yeah.
Our commissary is open. The food is launched. Of course, the practice is just busy, busy, busy. And we're thrilled. We've made so many bonded, feels like we're meeting family that we've been connected with through eternity. And so we're all finding each other, and we're just seeing magnificent changes. We certainly see cancers come in the door that these animals leave with no cancer. It's not a short process, guys. This is weeks and weeks and weeks of effort and dedication and commitment and cost, but we're seeing that it can be done.
Yeah, you just have to get the communication back into the cells and write a new program, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just changing the CPU, so there's a new thought coming out, one that is more serving.
That's right. And so what would you say to the audience and the listeners? Just give them a few tips on how they can just start today, especially those people who haven't really heard much about eating properly for their pets and the exercise. Okay. Just some few tips to get started.
Okay, I'm going to give you 3 because I'm going to tie back in the lymphatics. Number 1 is feed a species appropriate diet to your pet. You can go to evolve.com and really learn what does that mean, and making sure that you're supplying the essential vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids and doing gut repair. So that's number 1. Number 2, learn about water. Learn about a filtered, high-structured, quality water that you can use, whether it's Dr. Wolfe's product. We all have our different products. There's a lot of them out there. Just make sure whatever you look at, they have data to back up what they say. So that's food, that's water. And then number 3 is movement, right? If you just got out and moved more, you'd be moving the lymphatics and helping your animal to detoxify. Do it outside. Go out in parks, be on grass. I know there's glyphosate on it, but just try to find parks that don't spray and go out in the woods and exercise and enjoy and pick some weeds and get some microbiome going. Those would be my top 3 right there.
Beautiful. Excellent. Okay, so is there anything else I'd like you to share with everybody, though, if you don't mind, just going over how they can contact you about your course, about the food again, okay? And where they can go for the tips, if you can just give them the different URLs.
Okay, so to get my 6-step process for how to live a healthy lifestyle, it's an abbreviated version, but it's free. It's holistichealingvet.com. For more on the food, you can go to evolveraw.com, and it's love spelled forwards and backwards. So EVOLOVE raw.com. And then my website just has a ton of information, and that is pascovet.com. And then I have an Instagram page. I think it's Pasco Vet Med Center. And then, of course, Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. So those are all great resources to connect. On Facebook, guys, if you don't mind, send me a message that says that you heard me on Doc of Detox, because I get a lot of weird requests, and it's really hard for me to go through and find out which ones are legitimate, which ones are not. So just let me know how you heard me and why you're friending me. That would make the process go a lot faster.
Great. Excellent. So this is it for another show.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Wolfe. I don't think we thank you enough for all the work and effort, the platforms that you put out for all of us to be able to share our passions through your support. So, and thank you for making sure I got invited to Total Health. That was amazing. I had a great, great time.
Yeah, well, I know that you were very well received.
Thank you. Oh, and SOPMed, the next conference coming up, oh gosh, you'll have to either Facebook message me or email me, but we're going to be doing a link where pet owners and veterinarians can actually come in through a link. I think it's a small fee to come in, but very nominal. And you can actually hear a whole panel discussion on ozone therapy for animals.
Can you tell everybody what this is?
SOPMed is an organization, mostly MDs, but the veterinarians are now infiltrating a little bit, and it's cutting edge medicine from different technologies, different speakers, different focuses. And the part that I'm going to be doing is teaching about veterinary ozone and some advanced techniques. So if there's a veterinarian listening and you want to start thinking about doing ozone in your practice, we're actually going to be doing workshops and hands-on training with ozone, and a technique where we inject ozone and some nutrients into different joints for arthritis and pain and cruciate injuries. And then on Thursday, I don't remember, like somewhere around the 12th or 13th, on that day, we're going to have a panel discussion. I'm going to be moderating it on veterinary ozone. So if a pet owner or a veterinarian were interested in listening, it would be a fantastic forum for them to come in from the convenience of their home and learn a little bit more about ozone. It's really a magnificent therapy.
And where do they go again?
They're going to have to contact me, whether it's Facebook, whether it is my hospital, pascovet.com, and I'll send you the link to be able to register.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Dr. Siegel.
Thank you, Dr. Wolfe.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And just remember that your pets are people, too. So you really want to check out Dr. Siegel's food. And like I said, if you don't order her food, at least you're going to find out what really great food is. And make sure you jot down on your calendar that she's going to be releasing this course as well in September. I mean, come on. Look at, how healthy do you want your pet? Would you like to never see your pet be sick? Well, that would be everybody's wish, right?
Yeah.
Well, now you can just take action and just do it. Okay, that's the reality. Don't have fear. We all seem to, when new things come along, we go, no, I don't know. No, you know what? We're so robotic that we have to break that. Okay? Just do what's best for you, and that's loving and feeding your pet well, okay? So thank you, Dr. Marlene Siegel, again, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. God bless.
Bye.
If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.